Just cut them. Just go ahead and cut them. No, that ain't right. That ain't right yet. Kate's gonna get it. All right, guys. Now we are entering chill time. All right, guys. Remember, there is a test on one of these sentences on Friday. I'll give you a second sentence which you have never seen before on Friday, but I'll gloss every single word in it. This will be the second time it's happening, so I expect slightly better results than last time, Richard. I want y'all to take your time on it. I will not be here Friday, so tomorrow when we play Jeopardy, before or after Jeopardy, I'll make sure to tell you everything I would normally tell you before the quiz on Friday, since it'll just be like either an office person or an actual substitute giving you the test on Friday. That's all we'll do. If we play Among Us on Friday, like it say everyone finishes the test, no one rushes, because that would be illegal and despicable. And y'all have time to play a Pudnose. I'll probably tell the sub that one of y'all, if you're up to it, can moderate. But guys, make sure that they understand that, you know, the Catalina, they're not murdering senators, right?
They're smurfing.
Yeah, that we could use the word smurfing, or they're kind of like selecting them, right? It's all about selecting a victim.
They're
But
making them go 6 feet under.
maybe, but like if we think of the actual Catalan story, he like planned to kill senators, but he never actually did. So it's more like the
How about we
senators.
take them hostage?
Yeah, you could say hostage. Yeah, just make sure that the sub. I know this sounds funny for someone to tell you this, but like make sure they get that.
We get to murder people in class.
Yeah, I mean it goes back to a game called Mafia, and Mafia makes it very clear that it's like anyway. But it's just like it's a reference to an actual story. What? Huh? Yeah. All right, guys. So, as we go through these sentences, I need you to not talk over me at all, and I'll tell you what kind of questions you would expect on a quiz. I will leave the whole verb chart flipped. Oh, guys, please don't mistense a verb, and that means like tell me the wrong tense for it. When you have all the endings up here, right? Present, imperfect, future perfect, pluperfect, future perfect, they're labeled, right? So the endings should be pretty clear to you. Anyway, I'll definitely be asking about a verb, but let's get into it. And tomorrow's Jeopardy, and I can prep you a little more. But yeah. Okay, real quick, Soraya or Danny? Riches or wealth. Quisque, John or Kylie. Each one, that's kind of tricky. It's like easy to forget. Sui, you can just tell me like what kind of pronoun it is, or like what the rest of it is. Anyone?
It's a reflexive pronoun.
It's a reflexive third-person pronoun. So it can be himself, herself, itself. Okay. Good. Suis. Meanwhile, Nelius is. Yeah, it's a possessive adjective. Okay, it feels kind of pronoun-y, and that has to do with pronouns, but it's almost like it's a pronoun that's trapped on a genitive. All right, Auntie is what, Ava? No. Yeah, before Ava or Danny, does it take an accusative or ablative instruction? It actually takes an accusative along with it's like opposite tones. Yep. I feel like most of the prepositions we're getting recently take accusatives. So Auntie is before Olim or Nom. Anyone on Nelius' side of the room? Miss Fisher, what is Olim or Nom? Yeah, for or what is Olim? Danny? Yeah, so Olim is once, Nom is for. I guess I didn't get the slide. Oh my gosh, who's that? What is Alo Alara, Danny? To nourish. What is the Delago? Anyone out loud?
Love.
What is the young? Oh yes. What is the youngo younger? Anyone out loud?
That would be it.
It's Stostare is to.
Stand.
What is Stostare? Jake. So distracted. What's Stostare mean? To.
What was that?
Just ignore it, guys. Just ignore it. What is Stostare, Nathan or Caden? It means to. No, to stand. Okay, to stand. It's the one at the bottom there. Okay, guys. I guess Charizard's here. It's not a big deal. Just go with it. Just don't even worry about it. All right, who can read number 1?
Yo, es homines en forma sua creada.
Okay, this one is probably the easiest one. Who wants to translate it? Carson?
The first God creates something in the form of a human.
Oh, no, I think you overcomplicated this a little bit. So in Principio, I get why you'd say in like the first, but we want to translate Principium a little more specifically. Danny, what you get? Pretty good, pretty close. You kind of tripped up on the last thing in a similar way that Carson did. But yeah, in the beginning, right? Principium, I need like Caden and the zone to chill all the way down, guys. So let's drop for a reason. This is supposed to be a chill time we have this morning. And then tomorrow we'll play Jeopardy. It'll be a crazy unchill time. And then I will see you for 3 days straight. Jake?
I got in the beginning, God created humans in his image.
Good. Yeah, that's pretty good, right? Because like image, by the way, we know this. You probably picked up that this is a quotation from what well-known book?
The Bible.
Yeah, this is like Old Testament Genesis stuff. In the beginning, we have not seen Principio a ton. I meant to leave the macron on the O in Principio because what case here, anybody? What case is Principio? There should be a macron over that O. Not accusative. It's in the beginning, not into.
Ablative.
It's ablative, right? In the beginning, and then God, they even, I think it's capital D on y'all's, right? Usually Deus for us is like lowercase d, because we're talking about a whole bunch of like Greek pagan gods usually. But this is capital G God via the Old Testament, Judeo-Christian style. So it gives that big old D. In the beginning, God created is good, because what tense, Richard or Devin, is created? The present, future, imperfect, perfect, pluperfect, future, perfect. It is perfect, okay? Does anybody know what letter gives it away that it's perfect? I don't have, Charizard's not glossing it for us because he's an absolute jerk. But if he did, you would see it's creo, creare, creavi. The V shows up just like it does in so many first conjugation verbs in the perfect stem. So just seeing the V alone, we know it's perfect. If it was creavera to be pluperfect, like had created, oh, there's creare showing up. Great. All right. So in their own form, I like that Jake said image. I added image myself. But technically for forma, we've seen form, shape, and beauty. But yeah, like once you get this going, you probably recognize the quote and could just kind of like get it translated by way of like memory almost.
Well, here's the thing.
What?
Romans being pagan. So like basically they're not going to be pagan. So what I thought was it's going to be talking about the gods as in Venus, Jupiter,
Oh.
you know, all that. That's what I thought.
So whereas some people might have started to recognize this quote and like that helped them in a way, Carson, he like misrecognized it. He thought we were still in like the Greek pagan world. That makes sense, but some of the very first translations of the Bible were into Latin. Okay, it's written in Hebrew, but eventually and very quickly it's translated into Greek and Latin. Okay, in the beginning, God created men. So homine is what case? Anyone out loud?
That would be.
It's accusative, right? This es in the third declension, it could be nominative plural, but we already have our subject. Okay, deus, he's second declension nominative. So homine comes after the verb. God, the subject, created verb, the direct object, man, in his own form or image. I mean, we just saw imaginus in the Narcissus story. I could use that, maybe. But we have that possessive reflexive adjective. That's the one thing I want to draw attention to. Formasu is ablative, just like Principio is ablative, in the beginning, in his own form. And so saying his own is really good. And if you know this quote, like if it rings a bell, then you know that it's like usually translated that way, right? Like his own image, not just his image. It's a little weaker to do it that way. Any questions on this one? And again, here's the V in creavi that makes it perfect tense. All right, it's just good old like third singular perfect. It's not flu, it's not future perfect with the ERA or ERO. Who can read number 2?
Quad Navita Sanseran, Pater Ipse Next Video Suicide Kutu.
Cool, interesting accent. Can we have Fisher read it as well?
No, I don't want to read it.
Okay.
I just want to read it.
Oh, okay. Who wants to share their translation?
Can I go to the bucket?
Yeah.
Thanks.
This one's not bad. It's not. Kill Philios, kill Philios. Ava, what'd you get? Very good. Okay, there was like one thing towards the beginning because I think, did you say because you lost wealth? Okay, then never mind. It was perfect. Because he lost wealth, father, did you say could or how'd you do pot with? That was one thing I didn't quite get. He could or have been able? You said could? Could is fine. Could is great. Carson?
Because you sent away riches, your own father is not only able to nurse his own son, but also his daughter.
Pretty good. We don't want to say your own father. I'll talk about why, but I see like why you might think that. And then you did what I thought I heard Ava do, which is amiserat, that first verb, the third word. I think you thought it was second person. Well, other than that, it's really good. Understand when you're writing something just with the light drop does not mean that you were not right. Yeah, it's like make your study guide for the quiz, right? It's like I shouldn't have to explain this. Connor, what are you doing? That's unacceptable, guys. Guys, I'm a little under the weather, so I do not appreciate y'all forcing me to tell you to get something else. Does anybody think like, oh, Mr. Catalan is actually really cool with people just like sitting there with like, well, they're good. No, I'm a broken record about it. I never shut up about it. So like, don't make me talk about how you have to have somewhere just. Okay, quad is because we haven't seen it too much. Because I know we see Davitios rather. Davitios is what case, anyone? It's from Davitii, Davitiarum. It's always plural. So we're just thinking of the plural side of the first declension. That AS would be what? You want to up? Come on, y'all. What do y'all think it's AS? I need to know what this AS ending is.
No, wait, AS would be
It's accusative, plural. If you don't know that AS and AM are the first declension accusatives, well, you need to. Okay, have you considered knowing it?
I would have
What if I
mastered
put
it.
this in front of everyone's face? Look at that AS. Look at that AS. And look at that AM on the singular first declension accusative spot. You need to know both of those, or else you absolutely will not go to college, and that'll be a real issue. All right, so the point I'm making here, guys, quiet down back there. Fisher, you're about to get moved. Is that this is accusative, so you keep moving, and you see your verb is third person singular. We don't have a subject because it sure isn't wealth. It's accusative. Like wealth, how would that be a subject anyway? But if you look ahead a little bit, you see, no, it means wealth. It doesn't have anything to do with divine. We've reviewed it all week. Y'all clearly need the vocab quiz. If we look ahead a little bit, we see pater, dad, right? So maybe the third person of the he, she, or it that is amiserating is the dad. So we can use he, right? Because he lost wealth. But not quite lost. What tense is amiserat? It's from amito, amitra, amisi, amisum. What tense is it? Sariah or John, who's got to get something on his desk, or Caitlin or Laura. What tense is amiserat? It's one of the perfect ones. How do I know it's one of the perfect ones? Huh? Yeah, it's good, Caitlin. It's blue perfect because she probably saw that ERA. T at the end, or specifically it's ERA. Also, the fact that we're seeing an S in it and not these double T's. Double T's show up in the first two principal parts, but they go away for the perfect stem. So, like, I like the perfect stem. That I feel like I can recognize it's definitely from a mito to lose or send away. But it does like change significantly enough where like we know for sure that we're in the perfect system. And here, because it's ERA, it's blue perfect. So it's because he not has lost wealth, but had lost wealth. Not just the father, but pater ipsa. So how do we intensify pater, Richard or Emilio? The father himself. Yeah, not your own father or whatever, Carson. Which I get why you might do that. But the father himself, this is the masculine singular nominative ending. But you don't even really need to think of it that way. Just know how you would intensify a dad who happens to be a guy. The father himself. Let's come back to neck philios, because guys, when we see the neck thing happening, it's going to be neck ... something. another thing. And it's going to be like neither this nor that, a compound thing. I'm actually anticipating these are my direct objects. I don't know for sure. I don't even want to look at the endings because that's too much for my brain. But I'm like, maybe these are direct objects. Let me just go get my last verb. It's right there. Part of it. Okay? We keep saying passum posse for 2 weeks to be able to. Ava did could for this. That's great. Because could is a past tense of can or to be able to. You could also do has been able. Has been able might be just a twinge better than could, because we use could for imperfect. But honestly, you can use could for the imperfect paterat or patuit to be perfect possible. So he could nourish, right? Alra or new verb. And then we go back up to our direct objects. Neither Isaac here daughters nor, how about his own sons? We can apply his own to daughters and sons, not just sons. So he can nourish neither, he could verb neither this direct object nor that second direct object, right? That's what's happening. This sentence is kind of weird because it's like a little tiny clause right here, and then like a whole, like a bigger sentence after that. But they work together, and that pater is technically the subject of both parts of it. But it's kind of weird, like you don't know what the subject is until you see pater. But he is a fourth order, so. Any questions on this one? If I picked it, I'd ask about the tense of this guy, and you'd have to say it's pluperfect. You would really have to say that, okay? If you didn't, I would have to call the office and ask for them to call your parents and send you to Falcon Middle. So that is pluperfect. Patuit, meanwhile, is just perfect. Do I need to write that? Yep, let me do it. Yeah, who wants a bad education that's easier? That sounds like the worst thing. All right. Any questions? So the first verb is pluperfect. Just like patuit is perfect, though. I also might ask about philios and philios, and that'd be very sad if you can tell me they're accusative direct objects. If I tell the sub, they can leave the noun chart flipped. But y'all can tell them that. I'm telling you now, the verb and noun chart can be flipped. So if there's some kids like, oh, we need to flip them, Mr. Cunningham wouldn't like this, just remember, like, I'm actually okay with both of those being flipped on Friday. Who can read? Number 3. Kaden?
Aya, Femina, and Noam, Moram, Senses, Object, Which one say
The Covet, good. Trigger warning, guys, this one's actually a bummer. I think I remember this one. It's either this one only or there's like another one like it that I always want to tell kids to just kind of skip because it's kind of like a bummer. But I guess it's okay. It's part of the textbook. I think it's about a Vestal priestess who has to Nekavet say because of like Roman rules, like intense religious standards for not like breaking a rule. But do they want to share their messed up translation of this trigger warning sentence? Carson?
The woman herself never feels fear. Because of virtue, she kills.
Never feels fear. We don't have numquam. Don't get Nola mixed up with numquam. And it's not the woman herself. This is the annoying thing where it's like she, comma, the woman is what it would literally be. Aya feminine. We never see Aya, but that is just she. But this is one of the instances where we want to treat Aya as just this or that. It's basically hick or illa, or rather hike or illa, I should say. So this or that woman. But anyway, Jake?
This is gonna be absolutely so wrong. I know it. She is a woman, but felt the fear was nothing for the sake of virtue. He was put to death.
Okay. I mean, you're not that far off. And so you and Carson stumbled on Nolan. We need to talk about Nolan. Anybody else? Ava, real quick. Yes. Good. Okay. Yes. That sounded pretty good. No, Nolan's not one. You might be thinking of Unum, Caitlin. But anyway, this or that one, Caden?
I know it's wrong, but that woman did not have any sense of fear, but because of her courage, she
Okay, the second part's really good. Y'all all stumbled on this. So guys, eyes up here. This or that woman, right? Because there's this redundancy. We don't want to say she, comma, the woman. And then let's go ahead. Where's our verb? Okay, it's saints it. It's from Cintio Centire. Grace, what tense is it if it's from Cintio Centire Saincy? You read.
Would it be?
Anyone? What tense is saints it here if it's from Cintio Centire Saincy?
That would be
Wouldn't it be first person singular?
I want the tense. Present, future, imperfect, perfect, pluperfect.
let's say
perfect.
imperfect, but
Yeah, it's just perfect, guys. Eyes up here. Everyone needs to see this. This should be so fast. Because Grace is really good at Latin. She still couldn't quite like immediately do this. So saints it. If I have the dictionary here for you right here, Cintio Centire Saincy, and I'm telling you it's saints it, then you should look at that and be like, okay, it doesn't have the T's that show up in like the first two principal parts. It has the S that comes about in the third principal part. And then after that, it's just IT. It's not ERAT, it's not pluperfect, it's not ERIT, saints it rich. He will have sense. It's just perfect, okay? So that should be something that happens pretty fast for you if you have, like, Charizard is glossing a word for you. You should be able to be like, well, is it coming from the third principal part? And it's also just one of these endings. It's not Irama, Rasa, Rat, or anything like that. It's not perfect. Then yes, it's just perfect. That should be really fast. But anyway, so this should that woman sensed or has sensed. This should just be no fear. So y'all were either wanting that to be like never sensed fear or sensed like nothing. But Nolam and Timorum are both what case, anyone? This is third declension and he's second, but they're both
Direct objects?
direct objects. They're both accusatives, yeah. So they are both direct objects. So she sensed no fear. We saw Nola saw yesterday, but it was like none. It needed to be none there because remember it was like that man loves none of them. We couldn't have said he loves no of them. That's just like an English quirk. Like we had to use none. But sometimes, a lot of the time, Nola saw is just no. So here it's just no plus the thing it's with, which is fear. So the woman sensed no fear, but we haven't seen this in a while on account of virtue. That part should be pretty easy as long as you don't forget what propter means. And then Nakavi is third person, so we're probably still talking about her, she. Neko Nakare, Nakavi, what, let's do it again. I don't mean to pick on Grace, but Grace, what tense is Nakavi if it's coming from Neko, Nakare, Nakavi?
Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. It's just perfect, right? The V is the thing that gives it away. The V shows up in a lot of first conjugation verbs when they enter their perfect stem. And then it's just IT. It's not ERAT. It's not Nakav or he had killed or she had killed. But yeah, so it's like she killed or has killed. And then say is, what case is say? Anyone? Accusative or ablative? Because it's from sui, say, it's either one or the other. It's a direct object. It's accusative. So anyway, yeah. So, but I don't think she's doing it in like, a really depressing way. It's probably something weird, like she broke some rule as a Vestal priestess, and she like cares a lot about Roman religion. So she's going all out, but it is like kind of a bummer. So sorry guys. How about I say this? I won't pick this one. They're all on the table except this one because it's kind of too much of a bummer. The grammar in it is good. I don't know. It's kind of like lame as a sentence. It has a downer. It has a downer atmosphere. But that is our third person reflexive pronoun there, right? So it's going to be herself. We wouldn't say she killed her. It's got to be herself. And also, well, I don't want to. So this is from sui sibi say. And sui is actually related to a word for the thing she just did. Okay, anyway, number 3. Aiden?
Want me to read it?
Mm-hmm.
ATL post motos anos nino patiatem eos loga.
Incredible. What did you get for this?
I think this is not good. I got, after many years, nobody praised the fatherland.
After what?
Many.
Good. After many years, no one praised the fatherland. Very good. You might have left out A's, but otherwise excellent. Ava? Yeah, and maybe you said that, Ada, but like his or her country. AS is his or her. What's that, Ada? Indeed. So etium, guys, I sense y'all aren't comfortable with etium. Just think of that T and the I and the A turning into a V and an E. It means even. Sometimes it means also. Sometimes also will be better than even. But even is perfect here. Even, post means after many years. What case is multos anos, Maddie Duke? or Connor Skase, or John Ean, or Nathan Van. What's the case of multis honest? It's after many years.
So isn't it like third declension?
It's second declension.
Second declension.
Case, not tense. You know what I mean by things like the word case is tense.
Second.
It's second declension. Cases are nominative, genitive, dative. Where do we see the OS? Anyone? Anyone out loud? It's accusative. Post and ante, which means before, take accusatives, guys. So I was making that bit that didn't actually teach anyone anything about AS. How AS is first declension accusative plural. Well, OS is second declension accusative plural. All right. Maybe it helps if I suddenly shout. Okay. Triggers your fear response, gets the adrenaline flowing. And then now you'll know forever that OS is indeed second declension. Even after many years, and then no one seems like a perfect subject for us. We'll come back to patience. We'll come back to his or her, but that's what AS means. I want y'all to know that on a vocabulary level. And laudat is what tense, guys. You gotta love laudat.
No one's patient. No, phrase.
It's present tense. That is just a good old-fashioned present tense verb right there. It's not doing no harm to nobody. It's just living its life. What is the case of Patientiam, Ms. Fisher, or Laura Post, or Mr. Cole? Yeah, because that's the actual direct object. Remember, things are either accusatives as a direct object, or it's because they're an object of one of our propositions, like post, ante, propter, maybe in if it's into and not in, for you're translating in, or I think that's about it. Post, ante, propter, in. There's at least one more. But that's add now, right? Add is 2. X is from. Excellent, Devin. Incredible. If I picked this one, no, I guess maybe I'd ask. Okay, here, I know. You're on the first class. Remember, I always have to I decide these things during this class. That's why the case of multos honors, and Maddie Dugan would get it because I made such a weird thing about shouting about the OF being accusative and the noun chart will be flipped. And AS, I want you to tell me it's genitive. I would just ask the case of AS. I wouldn't ask the function, but you would tell me it's genitive. I might ask the case and function of multos honors. So let me write those real quick. We got time. We're crushing on time. Got all the time in the world. Who's gonna chill so hard this weekend? Anyone? Huh?
No, I can't go because I have a puppy.
Who's doing a crazy amount of oh no, I would only ask the case. I wouldn't ask the function because you would just say object of post. Who wants to do a crazy amount of video games?
Oh yeah. That's me.
Who wants to finish a wonderful fictional novel and also play a lot of video games? Anyone? No? Huh?
That sounds like me too.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
Whoa, y'all just got really loud. Interesting. Who can read? Is this number 5?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Who can read number 5? Aver. Go ahead, thank you. Good. Okay, this one is delectable. This one is straight up sick. I like this one a whole lot because it's got all sorts of. It's a smorgasbord, really, of fantastic grammar.
Thank you for
That's not really what I mean. I'm even trying to tell myself, but I mean, I do like this. So, who can translate it? Let's hear from Carso.
That young doctor himself loves his great work.
Say it again.
And that young doctor himself loves his great work.
Pretty good, but you don't want to go overboard with. It's not the young doctor himself. That'd be like ipsa. So the himself or herself that goes right after a noun. That's an intensive kind of pronoun like ipsa, ipsa, ipsum. Just because we see sui, sibi, say, that might be a himself, but it's happening later. It's not happening right next to a noun that it's intensifying. Anyway, I don't know if I explained that well. And also, you don't have. This is not the word for doctor. What's the word for doctor, anyone? Medicus. This is an adjective from dokeo, dokeri, the verb to teach. That means more like what? Anyone? Taught. Yeah, it means like someone who has been taught. So taught is good. Skilled is okay. Learned sounds a little antiquated, but I like learned. It sounds cool to me. I mean, even taught is actually kind of weird. Like that taught young man. Like that sounds weird. But maybe learned or skilled is fine. But Ava, what'd you get? Say it one more time, a little louder. Sorry. Okay, so I think you might have got this verb mixed up with something. I don't blame you. It's a weird one, and it's not that he taught anyone actually. So that's weird because we hear the word taught. Taught could be a verb, like I taught someone, or it could be an adjective. But it's a weird one, right? We don't say, oh, the taught boy, the boy who was taught. Like we never use it in that capacity. So maybe we should treat doctus on like skilled. It means like skilled. How about that? So it's that like skilled youth. That's the subject, right? Because it was that, not this. I'd be hit. This just means youth, and doctus means like skilled. If taught is kind of awkward, and you also don't believe me that learned is a word, then let's use skilled. So that skilled youth. All right. See, yep, exactly. And then where's my verb? Where's my verb? Where's my verb? I see a bunch of junk. Oh, here's my verb. My verb is really weird. It's from disco, discora, tadiki. So it's one of those verbs where the third principal part barely looks like the first. If you saw this guy and did not know it was coming from disco, discora, and couldn't even look it up, I don't blame you. But it's one of the weirdest ones, so I have pointed it out. We've seen it a little bit. But it means to learn. And so it's definitely one of the perfects, right? Clearly, if we have been paying attention, Caden, and we've like seen me point this out, then we know that if it's coming from the third principal part, it's either perfect, blue, or future perfect. Which is it though? Anyone allowed to DK rock? Rock with the ERA. Anyone allowed? Someone said had, and it is blue. Yeah, so we're going to use had because it is blue. If it was just DK hits, because we've been seeing these perfect ones I was pointing out to Grace, that would just be perfect. The DK hits would be like he or she learned. But this is the DK rock. The blue perfect endings are sometimes longer. They all have the ERA. And so we have to use had. So someone had taught. So that skilled youth had learned, rather not taught, sorry. And then we go back up. What's my direct object, anyone? This is kind of weird. Learned what? What do y'all think he learned? Anyone? Anyone out loud? This is the last one, guys. Yeah, it's actually multa. I think we've seen this once before. It's kind of weird. But multa there can be a direct object. It's an adjective, right? It means much or many. But like with this A, it's probably doing that. It's like it's a neuter accusative plural A. So he had learned much. Per with an accusative is through, but through himself would not make sense. With an ablative, it's by. So what do y'all think is better, through himself or by himself?
By himself.
Probably by, like he learned by himself. So this is an ablative say, not an accusative word. Really? Okay. Oh yeah, this was during tutoring yesterday, and I realized I hadn't actually finished this, and I sort of still did it. We have time. It's great. Let me make this red. Da-da. Much, and then I write going back to white by going to green. Why am I going to green for himself?
Because it's ablative.
It's ablative.
Yeah, because like say, it can be ablative or accusative. All right, and let's do the last thing. I'll do it live. But he learned much by himself. So, Carson, you see why like this himself is not intensive. It's not like that learned youth himself. That would be illa, adolescens, doctus, ipsa. This is a reflexive pronoun that's actually serving as something other than the subject. Intensive pronouns often are like intensifying the subject. So anyway, that's not what's happening here. But it is easy to mix them up, right? Because they both just result in words that have self as a suffix. But, and what? Laborum suum. Not just any labor, but suum laborum. His own labor. Not, well, what do you say? Yeah, no, works fine. And his own labor. he learned his own. Like, I actually think this is kind of a weird construction a little bit. Actually, I should make all these, because like these are accusative, which I don't really does it mean like oh my gosh. So laborum suum is accusative. Sorry, what? So it can also be an object of per, but it won't be by his own labor. It'll be anyone? Through. That's what per usually means. Dang, that's crazy. I actually like this sentence now. Well, I said I already liked it, but now I like it even more. Dang, look at that, guys. So this is all, this shouldn't be red. This should be orange. I see. I was like, that doesn't make sense as a direct object. It's an accusative object of per. So that's weird. Okay, I don't know if that would happen in a Cicero passage, but per is taking an accusative object and an ablative one. And that's actually straight up interesting to me. So cool. Cool. Very cool. Any questions on this one? If I picked this one, I would surely need you to tell me that Didikarat is what tense, anyone? Perfect. And then I would also want you to tell me, oh yeah, okay, that say was ablative, and I'd probably make each of these half a point, that say was ablative, and that laborum suum was accusative. Like, that's the case of both of them. And again, like, the noun chart is flipped. So just looking at the noun chart, em, that's third declension accusative, um, that's second declension accusative, suum is always first and second. Say is it's on the board. It can only be one or two. But like, if you can remember that they're different, right? They're not both accusative. That's why it's not like if they're both accusative, it'd be he learned a lot through himself, which doesn't make sense, and through his labor. But no, it's by himself through his labor. Same preposition, doing two different things. If that's not straight up beautiful to y'all, then I never want to talk to you ever again in my entire life.
Okay.
All right, any questions on this? Guys, when I say really mean things, it's getting old that you guys say mean things back. Clearly, it's a joke, okay? I'm not actually mean. All right, guys, look at these vocab words with your eyeballs. Any questions, comments, concerns? No? All right. Okay. Everyone put your head down and go to sleep. Good night. Guys, Ides of March is coming up in 12 days. Y'all will be home on a Monday on the Ides of March, but the next day, we'll stab each other. Well, do good on this quiz. So, if you want to be Julius Caesar in 13 days, do good on this quiz.
Would you try to stop him, even if that man was one of your closest friends and allies? These were the questions haunting Roman senator Marcus Junius Brutus in 44 BCE, the year Julius Caesar would be assassinated. Opposing unchecked power wasn't just a political matter for Brutus, it was a personal one. He claimed descent from Lucius Junius Brutus, who had helped overthrow the tyrannical king known as Tarquin the Proud. Instead of seizing power himself, the elder Brutus led the people in a rousing oath to never again allow a king to rule. Rome became a republic based on the principle that no one man should hold too much power. Now, 4.5 centuries later, this principle was threatened. Julius Caesar's rise to the powerful position of consul had been dramatic. Years of military triumphs had made him the wealthiest man in Rome. And after defeating his rival Pompey the Great in a bitter civil war, his power was at its peak. His victories and initiatives, such as distributing lands to the poor, had made him popular with the public, and many senators vied for his favor by showering him with honors. Statues were built, temples were dedicated, and a whole month was renamed, still called July today. More importantly, the title of dictator, meant to grant temporary emergency powers in wartime, had been bestowed upon Caesar several times in succession. And in 44 BCE, he was made dictator perpetuo,
Oh my god.
dictator for a potentially unlimited term.
Oh my gosh.
All of this was too much for the senators who feared a return to the monarchy their ancestors had fought to abolish, as well as those whose own power and ambition were impeded by Caesar's rule. A group of conspirators calling themselves the Liberators began to secretly discuss plans for assassination. Leading them were the senator Gaius Cassius Longinus and his friend and brother-in-law, Brutus. Joining the conspiracy was not an easy choice for Brutus. Even though Brutus had sided with Pompey in the ill-fated civil war,
Pompey.
Caesar had personally intervened to save his life, not only pardoning him, but even accepting him as a close advisor and elevating him to important posts. Brutus was hesitant to conspire against the man who had treated him like a son, but in the end, Cassius's insistence and Brutus's own fear of Caesar's ambitions won out. The moment they had been waiting for came on March 15th. At a Senate meeting held shortly before Caesar was to depart on his next military campaign, as many as 60 conspirators surrounded him, unsheathing daggers from their togas and stabbing at him from all sides.
No.
As the story goes, Caesar struggled fiercely until he saw Brutus. Despite the famous line, Et tu, Brute, written by Shakespeare, we don't know Caesar's actual dying words. Some ancient sources claim he said nothing, while others record the phrase, "And you, child?" fueling speculation that Brutus may have actually been Caesar's illegitimate son. But all agree that when Caesar saw Brutus among his attackers, he covered his face and gave up the fight, falling to the ground after being stabbed 23 times. Unfortunately for Brutus, he and the other conspirators had underestimated Caesar's popularity among the Roman public, many of whom saw him as an effective leader, and the Senate as a corrupt aristocracy. Within moments of Caesar's assassination,
An aristocracy is when a government body runs everything. Like an autocracy is a king or a dictator that runs everything. An aristocracy is when a senate basically controls everything, or maybe a court of like lords.
Rome was in a state of panic. Most of the other senators had fled, while the assassins barricaded themselves on the Capitoline Hill. Mark Antony, Caesar's friend and co-consul, was swift to seize the upper hand, delivering a passionate speech at Caesar's funeral days later that whipped the crowd into a frenzy of grief.
So we can also have someone be Mark Antony and read. So whoever's good at public speaking, or maybe who's in the play and has learned about acting, can read from the Shakespeare play, Shakespeare's version of the speech Mark Antony gave. We don't actually know exactly what Mark Antony said, but we have an idea of some of the things he might have said. So yeah, some people didn't like Julius Caesar, but a lot of them, especially when he died, were like, I'd rather him just be alive. I want the civil wars to be over.
And anger. As a result, the liberators were forced out of Rome. The ensuing power vacuum led to a series of civil wars, during which Brutus, facing certain defeat, took his own life.
Oh my gosh.
Ironically, the ultimate result would be the opposite of what the conspirators had hoped to accomplish: the end of the Republic and the concentration of power under the office of emperor. Opinions over the assassination of Caesar were divided from the start, and have remained so. As for Brutus himself, few historical figures have inspired such a conflicting legacy. In Dante's Inferno, he was placed in the very center of hell and eternally chewed by Satan himself for his crime of betrayal. But Swift's Gulliver's Travels described him as one of the most virtuous and benevolent people to have lived. The interpretation of Brutus as either a selfless fighter against dictatorship or an opportunistic traitor has shifted with the tides of history and politics. But even today, over 2,000 years later, questions about the price of liberty, the conflict between personal loyalties and universal ideals, and unintended consequences remain more relevant than ever.
Oh my gosh. Why y'all so loud though?
John is doing weird stuff to paper.
John, you need to go to
So
sleep.
he's beating a person, paper that he thinks is my sister. Yeah.
John.
He was a powerful king whose break with the Church of Rome would forever change the course of English history. But was he a charismatic reformer or an alien?
The next person who talks
Find out on
will be
History
suspended.
versus Henry VIII.
That's one.
Order. Now, who do we have here? Looks like quite the dashing fellow.
Indeed, Your Honor. This is Henry VIII, the acclaimed king who reformed England's religion.
Okay, I clicked on the wrong one,
and set it on
but
course to becoming
it's
a
fine.
modern nation. I beg to differ. This is a cruel, impulsive, and extravagant king who had as little regard for his people as he did for his 6 wives.
6 wives.
Your
Okay, he
Honor,
did
his
have
first
6
marriage
wives,
was
but
a
not at the
marriage
same time. We should say, I need you guys to put all your things away and then go to sleep / get out.
I need you to go to Brazil.
Thank you for cleaning up, Nathan.
His reign marked the beginning of
Stay seated, stay seated. I was just testing y'all.
of one of its first republics.
Nope,
Was Rome's
I
first
was lying.
a visionary leader who guaranteed his civilization's place in history, or a tyrant who destroyed its core values? Find out in History versus Augustus.
Order. The defendant today is Gaius Octavius.
Gaius Julius Caesar.
Do we have the wrong guy?
No, brother. Gaius Octavius, born in 63 BCE, was the grandnephew of Julius Caesar. He became Gaius Julius Caesar upon being named his great-uncle's
Hello?